And now, it's everyone's favorite time of the evening, the Noir City Detective Hour. This week, Detective Gumshoe is coming face to face with the deadly Black Widow in The Fatal Connection.
It was a night like every other night, here in Noir City. Dark, seedy, rain with wind that bit back like a dog that hadn't had their fill. And here I was, 2 days sober, with another mystery to solve.
Still raining?
Jane, our new front desk secretary, asked me, as if a small lake wasn't forming beneath me. Maybe the glasses she was wearing weren't just for her looks. Like cats and dogs.
You working on a big case, detective?
Always. Has Mrs. Rushman come in yet?
Yeah, she's in room 5. You really think she did it?
I don't think. I know.
Well... Oh, I also brewed a fresh pot of coffee. Just for you, Richard.
Thanks, Jane. You're a doll. I took a sip of the bitter brew and forced a smile at the woman, awaiting for her approval for her coffee-making skills. What Jane lacked in domestic skill, she made up for it in her looks. Her typing skills weren't half bad either. I took another sip of the coffee as I made my way back towards the suspect, the taste of swift justice sweetening the liquid caffeine. I walked into the room, ready to face the tall, raven-haired seductress sitting at the table in the center of the room, ready to prove that I could still handle this case. I'm Detective Richard Gumshoe.
Your name is Dick Gumshoe?
Richard. No one calls me Dick anymore. You see, it was a dark and stormy night. The rain fell and
I can't imagine you brought me here just to talk about your sad backstory.
I could tell she was a no-nonsense kind of person. Even her hair didn't have time to curl as it hung in a straight bob. Need a light?
Never.
She blows smoke right in my face, like she's trying to get a rise out of me. But the only thing rising in this room is her disregard for authority. Do you know why you've been brought in, Mrs. Rushman?
Yes, but I honestly don't know what else you dicks want from me. I told Officer Bailey about everything I witnessed when he showed up to my house that morning.
She wasn't going to make this easy, but I had more than enough to bury her, like a dog buries a bone. That's just it. After you told the responding officer everything, you practically ran from the scene. What was so important that you had to leave?
It's not easy being a socialite, detective. The last thing I needed in my day was a grisly murder to happen on my way out the door.
But it was your husband.
Well, he should have picked a better time to die.
For someone who wants to be seen as a witness, your behavior is awfully suspicious.
Do you know who I am?
Of course I knew who she was. I wouldn't have received the Detective of the Year award without being good at my job. Faye Rushman, you're originally from Missouri. You came out to Los Angeles when you were 16, married at 18. First husband died in a car crash, second husband disappeared, and 6 months after that, you married the very recently deceased Mr. Rushman.
He didn't disappear.
Your second husband? His sister filed a missing person report. This case is still...
He left me for another woman.
If that's true, then why haven't you made an official statement to the police?
Why? It's not like he left me his forwarding address or the number to his new lady.
I could tell Faye was ready to play ball from the second I called her on the phone. Little did I know that she had signed me up for a game of chess instead.
What do my previous husbands have to do with this anyways?
You asked me if I knew who you were. I was just giving you the facts. Unless you think there is some sort of link between them and this case. The broad must have mistaken me for some easily swayed fool, because she let the revealing slit of her dress expose her long legs as she crossed them.
The only link between my husbands is the fact that they all married me.
If you excuse me for a moment, Mrs. Rushman.
Do I have any other choice?
Chief,
Gumshoe?
I could tell by the way he said my name that I was caught.
I thought I took you off this case.
He did. Oh, so that was what the conversation was about? The chief's face was partially red when I stepped out of the room, but now I might as well be staring down a ripe tomato.
Your utter disregard for my authority will land you back on the beat for the rest of your career, Dick. So you better have a damn good reason for bringing in that poor, grieving widow.
She ain't grieving, sir.
Well, according to Officer Bailey, she was practically at a loss for words over her grief on the scene.
The dame nearly ran me over when I arrived, so excuse me for my lack of sympathy.
Well, it's your lack of sympathy that's going to have the press slandering the good name of the Noir City Police Department. It's an election year, Gumshoe. I can't afford bad press right now.
Don't worry, sir. I was just waiting on Aaron to give me the last bit of evidence, and I can guarantee that that file will be the perfect spider repellent for our deadly Black Widow.
Chief.
Aaron, Gumshoe here claims you've got definitive evidence against Mrs. Rushman.
Definitive.
Aaron was holding the file in her hand, like she was holding a pound of dynamite with a lit fuse.
Spit it out, Aaron.
The blood type of Faye Rushman and the sample found by the brake line on her first husband's car do match.
What about the fingerprints?
You see, that's where things get complicated.
Complicated? You know I don't like complicated, Gumshoe. Do I have to remind...
Please, sir, let me finish. There were 2 sets of fingerprints found near the brake line. Only one of them matched the prints I took from Mrs. Rushman.
So she had an accomplice.
Accomplices are complicated, Gumshoe. I know you see the headlines reading guilty, but all I see is Chief of Police gets egg on his face.
Sir, Chief Flatfoot, I have more. You see, Richard, he asked me to take a look into the disappearance of Mrs. Rushman's second husband.
And?
They found the body.
Well, what's left of it after nearly 6 months of sitting just off a hiking trail. Honestly, it's surprising it took so long for someone to find it.
Shoot! Oh, jeez, I'm such a klutz. I'm so sorry, boys. Aaron, I didn't mean to interrupt.
You alright, Dollface?
Yeah, I'm fine. Let me just pick these up.
Jane, that picture actually belongs in this file.
Darn it. Isn't that Mrs. Rushman? And who's this handsome beau in the picture with her?
The picture, Jane?
Oh, right. Sorry.
It's okay, just watch where you're going next time.
Thanks, Aaron. Think you'll solve the case tonight?
That's what we're trying to determine right now.
Well, I won't keep y'all any longer. Good luck.
That girl always seems to be sticking her nose where it shouldn't be.
The dame's harmless. Have you tasted the coffee she makes?
She's at least trying.
Ahem. Enough about Jane. How can you be so certain it is who you think it is?
Oh, yeah, right. The victim's wallet was not even 3 yards away. Mrs. Rushman's fingerprints were on the wallet. The accomplice's fingerprints were on the torn photos that was also found on the scene.
When I went to pull the picture out of the file, I was expecting to find a photo torn in half, separating Mrs. Rushman and her second husband. But the part of the picture that was missing clearly had a third person. The arms of the third person were wrapped around the husband's waist, and you can still see a part of their long black hair in the photo as well. Did you find the other half of this photo?
We looked over the area several times. We didn't find anything else. but the tear didn't cut off the inscription on the back.
Thanks, Aaron. That's exactly what I needed.
Gumshoe, don't you dare go back into that interrogation room. There are still glaring holes in this case, Detective. So unless you can prove to me right here and now that...
Thanks again, Aaron. I never thought he'd shut up.
It's okay, it's really heavy.
There. Now Noah will know the difference.
I'm putting my whole career on the line for you tonight, Richard. So you better have that girl singing like a goddamn canary by the time Chief wakes up.
Haven't you heard? I'm the newest talent agent for Atlas Nightclub, and I'm about to book Mrs. Faye Rushman as the new headliner.
For your sakes, I hope so.
I looked down at the photo in my hand. It was all coming down to this. What Aaron saw is just a torn photo with a love note. I saw as a winning ticket at the horse track. But even the best leads require a little smoke and mirrors.
What's this?
You're a ticket to the big house, sweetheart. I was bluffing, but I needed to force her hand. She needed to help me fill in the gaps.
You aren't insinuating that I've killed my husband, are you, Detective?
No, I'm not. I'm insinuating that you are responsible for all your husband's deaths.
You know, I'm personal friends with the assistant DA. Whatever flimsy case you have against me will never stick.
It's not flimsy, Faye. It's fact.
You can't possibly prove that.
What do you think this folder is full of? Pressed flowers and rainbows? I could see the beads of sweat forming on her forehead. She was eyeing the bait. I just needed her to take it. Upon a second look at your first husband's vehicle, it was noted that the car's brake has been cut. A small drop of blood was found at the site of the crime, along with 2 sets of fingerprints. The blood sample came back with your blood type. O positive.
So what? A lot of people are O positive. It's one of the most common blood types.
And the fingerprints matched the very lovely ones you provided to my guy, down in evidence when you arrived.
I don't get on my knees for anyone. Not even God. What makes you think I'd risk ruining one of my designer dresses to mess with my husband's car?
A smirk formed on her painted lips, like she had just put my king into check. But I was already 10 moves ahead. Then there was the matter of your second husband.
I thought we already went over this. He left me for...
You will always be our pickle. Love your double trouble lovers.
Where did you get that?
Were you aware that your second husband's body was found today?
What? No. How are you even sure it's him?
A wallet with his ID and this picture were found within a few yards from him. Her eyes were wide with fear as she let the remains of her cigarette drop from her fingers. I'd cut her. I just needed to find out who her accomplice was, who the second set of fingerprints belonged to.
It was the other woman, and it had to be. It still broke my heart, but I hardly think that gives me motive.
Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned.
Exactly. And he was cheating on me, sure, but he was also cheating on this woman by continuing to be married to me. And she left his wallet to frame me. And why else would my picture still be in it?
That theory isn't very kosher, Mrs. Rushman. Unless you're saying that the other woman was the one torn out of this picture? I pushed the photo towards her, and she recoiled away from it like I was handing her a live snake. Who is your accomplice, Faye?
Stop right there!
Put the gun down, Jane.
The name's Femme Tall, Detective. And Faye's my twin sister.
With one hand, Femme removed her blonde wig and glasses, rendering the two nearly indistinguishable. The shock slowed my reflexes. By the time I reached for my gun, Faye had already had her own gun poking into my ribs.
Checkmate.
And that's when it hit me. The double trouble lovers, Femme and Faye Tall. Identical twins who've been working their way through the richest men in the state. They were wanted across several counties, and I had them both right here in my interrogation room.
We haven't been caught yet, and we're not planning on getting caught now. So why don't you slip on these bracelets and chain yourself to the table, Dick?
I told you, no one calls me Dick anymore!
Stop moving!
You haven't seen the last of us, Dick!
You're right, Fem. I will see you again when the judge hands you a guilty verdict.
I ought to fire you and Aaron for knocking me out like that, Gumshoe.
Don't blame Aaron for this, sir.
But if I fired ya, well, I'd be firing the men who just caught these deadly black widows.
Thanks, Chief.
Are you okay, Richard?
I think I'll be alright, Aaron. Luckily, the shot wasn't fatal.
Boys, why don't you escort these women to their new home, behind bars?
Get your filthy hands off of me, pig.
And someone get Detective Gumshoe a damn doctor.
Yes,
sir.
Another night, another mystery solved. 2 more killers behind bars, and a brand new scar to add to the collection. Yeah. A night like every other night, here in Noir City.
Next time on the Noir City Detective Hour. It's Christmas, and Detective Gumshoe's got a new case that slays. The Fatal Connection was brought to you by the Orange Coast College Repertory. Written, directed, and sound edited by Hana Sakioka. Starring
Alex Huynh as Richard Gumshoe.
Cheyenne Segal as Femme Tall.
Cassandra Ortega as Faye Tall.
Seth Corder as Chief Flatfoot.
And Bree Nguyen as Aaron.